Never stop reading the Bible. Let's dive right in. Today's explainer takes us straight into the biblical text of the book of Esther, specifically looking at chapters 1 through 5. And wow, this isn't just dry history. We are talking about a totally thrilling narrative, packed with political intrigue, incredible courage, and high-stakes strategy. It's a literal masterclass in what happens when everyday, ordinary people are suddenly thrown into some seriously life-altering situations. Now, to really get what's happening here, we have to talk about this concept of providence. It's essentially the heartbeat of the whole text, and here is the wildest part, a massive paradox you might completely miss if you're just skimming. If you read through these chapters, the word God is literally never mentioned, not a single time. Yet, you can't miss this unseen, protective care guiding everything. It's like watching a grand master play chess, quietly moving ordinary pieces into the exact right places at the exact right time. So how does the board get set? Well, it starts with a completely empty Persian throne. King Ahasuerus throws this lavish, months-long party, which ends with him actually deposing Queen Vashti. That creates a huge power vacuum. Enter Esther. She's a beautiful Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai. By keeping her heritage a secret, she navigates this crazy royal selection process, and bam, she becomes the new queen. Right after that, Mordecai uncovers an assassination plot and literally saves the king's life. At this point, it feels like a perfect, peaceful rise to power, right? Well, not so fast. The whole vibe shifts from a royal fairy tale to a really dark, urgent threat almost overnight. We meet Haman the Agagite, who just got promoted to second in command, and he demands everyone bow to him. But Mordecai? He flat out refuses because of his Jewish identity. And Haman's pride doesn't just take a hit, he is absolutely enraged. He doesn't just want to punish Mordecai, though. He actually manipulates the king with false reports, tricking him into sealing a horrific decree. We're talking about a royal order for the complete annihilation and plunder of the entire Jewish population in the empire. You can imagine what happens when that terrible decree goes public. The emotional fallout is just devastating. The entire city of Susa falls into utter confusion, and throughout the provinces, the Jewish people, including Mordecai, completely strip away their normal lives. They are mourning, fasting, weeping, throwing on sackcloth. It's just pure, terrifying desperation. And this brings us right to the emotional climax of our explainer. Mordecai begs Esther to step in, but she hesitates. And honestly, you can't really blame her. Approaching the king uninvited is an automatic death sentence. But Mordecai hits her with this profound challenge. He pushes her to see her crown not as some lucky coincidence, but as a providential tool. He asks that famous question, who knows but that you've come to your royal position for such a time as this? Was she put there exactly for this moment of salvation? Knowing the deadly risk, Esther asks Mordecai to gather all the Jews in Susa to fast for her for 3 straight days. And then she delivers what has to be one of the most iconic declarations of courage ever. If I perish, I perish. It is a massive, goosebump-inducing shift. She goes from being just a passive royal figure to an active, life-risking hero. So the 3 days pass, and Esther puts her life right on the line, stepping into the inner court. The tension here is off the charts, but the king extends his golden scepter. Her life is spared. He even offers her up to half the kingdom. Now, you'd think she'd just demand Haman's head right then and there, but Esther is playing a brilliant, super cautious game of chess. Instead, she simply invites the king and Haman to a private banquet. She's managing the king's ego and carefully baiting the hook. And you've really got to notice the stark contrast between our two main players right here. Esther is showing immense strategic patience. She actually delays her true request and invites them to a second banquet. Haman, on the other hand, he leaves feeling so important and arrogant, right up until he sees Mordecai, who still refuses to bow. Completely blinded by rage and impulsive pride, Haman immediately orders the construction of a towering wooden gallows in his own courtyard. He's planning to execute Mordecai the very next morning, which leaves us on the edge of our seats with an incredible cliffhanger. On one side, Esther is preparing this carefully calculated banquet to save her people. On the other, a deadly gallows literally stands ready. In this ultimate test of unseen providence, what's going to win out? Strategic patience or blind, arrogant pride? Who is ultimately going to fall? We'll have to dive into that next time. Oh, and a special thanks to the Center Studio for providing the materials for this explainer. Thanks so much for joining me.